Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and I'm representative and starting the Roanoke Valley Chess Club YouTube channel. And this is our first video, and we're going to be doing various things, such as covering topical openings for the RVCC, covering games from tournaments that we hold or just casual games that we played during our normal club meetings. Obviously, during this time of uncertainty and social distancing, we've had to switch to online, and this is a game played between two members, myself as the white pieces, and one of our younger members, Isaac, as the black pieces. This was played on chess.com in a correspondence tournament, as you can see. And we'll go through and we'll just have some fun with the game. So, e4. I am a king pawn player. Not because of the whole best by test or because I'm a Fischer fan. It's just I like sharper games, so I like playing pawn to king 4. And Isaac is a Caro-Kann player, and what follows is a sequence that we typically blitz out in a couple of seconds over the board. It's actually really impressive. There are times when we'll both have, our starting time minus 1 second. And this and yeah, so we're going to kind of fast forward to this. This is a very well-known line in the Caro-Kann up to, with slight variations on the exact move order that black plays, but move order doesn't 100% matter in this variation because you're going to get very similar positions regardless. So basically, you'll get to 11, white's 12th move without very much in the way of, you'll get to this position regardless of how the move order that black plays. And I've chosen this line just because I like grabbing the space on the king side. I like that if black castles king side, I've got an attack over there, and I just like that it provides a simple game for me regardless. It allows me to do what I do best, which is put my pieces on squares where I can then sacrifice them on a different square, or maybe that square, and say, okay, I'm going to checkmate you. I dare you to stop me. Obviously, it doesn't always work out. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. And of course, black is more than likely going to either not castle or castle queenside in this game. And we get to 12 castles long, and this is the variation I play. Queen c7. Isaac plays this, and we've probably played this exact game, this exact position, probably 100 times at least. I don't know the exact numbers, but we got into this position a lot. And like I said, we played it so often and so quickly that we can reach this with a second burned on each of our clocks. And here I typically either play rook h4, rook e1, knight e4, the standard stuff. But I decided I wanted to keep him from castling long because he often does, and the game gets really dry from there, at least for my tastes. So I decided to invest some time, and I had done a little bit of research, but I had never really seriously considered playing this pawn sacrifice. But I knew there was some danger for black beforehand if he wants to accept it. And that his queen actually is going to have to return back to c7 at some point. So I played knight e5, and this is a pawn sacrifice, of course. Rook e1, and this was a mistake. For rather obvious reasons for both, what I would think are obvious reasons for the both of us. And while I'm stammering, I'd love for you ought to take some time and figure out the tactic that allows white to gain an advantage, maybe not a complete advantage, but certainly give him the winning chances, basically. By the way, I will go back a few moves. After here, after queen c7, new variation. Typically, white has played knight f5. Sorry, I was making a joke for anybody who's watched a lot of chess content on YouTube. You probably know whom I'm referencing when I say knight f5, but I meant to say knight f5, of course. That's the theoretical variation, but I had prepared c4 because knight d5 is kind of a tricky move to meet, and it's actually somewhat difficult to prove any sort of edge for black after queen f3, because at the end of the day, or even queen f5, and queen f5 is probably stronger now that I look at it again, because I'm going to overwrite queen f3. Queen f5 allows me to play bishop to a5, which is a very strong move. And castling is going to be very difficult. You can't really play g6 because I take, and I'm looking at maybe even playing rook takes e6. And I would think white's the one who is having all the fun. Yeah, there's a little bit of air around my king, but black is undeveloped. Black's king is in the center. Black's uncoordinated. White's pieces are having a really fun time of this. I've got bishop f4 coming. Rook e6, like I said before. I could maybe even afford to play king b1 at some point. So instead, I'm going to go back here, and we're going to go back to the main game. And y'all have probably had enough time now. I'll give you another 5 seconds. But basically, we're taking advantage of the fact that black's king is on e6, and that the queen is caught in a precarious position. That's right. Rook e6. And there's good, there's not good. Well, let me put it this way. For black, this is not a good situation to be in. By the way, this is my water. I have a cat, and he likes to drink out of drinking glasses, and he has a nasty habit of pulling them down. So I've had to switch to using something with a lid, and I'm trying to use less plastic bottles and more stuff I can just reuse. So I'm using a mason jar because that's what I have. Anyway, yeah, queen takes is bad for the obvious reason of rook e1. Pawn takes, we'll see that because that's what happened in the game. I believe king to d7, if I remember my analysis correctly, was the correct move. And we're going to put a new variation in. And if I remember correctly, my goal was to play here. You'd probably take with the knight because the isolated pawn is just not good. And I'm probably just dropping my rook back all the way because, well, I've got my pawn back. I've got a space advantage. His knight's kind of in a vulnerable position. I can consider playing, say, bishop, maybe not bishop f4, bishop a5, c4, stuff like that in order to take advantage of the fact that his king is still very much in the center in a weak position. So we're going to actually go back to the game where he played f takes e6, and actually I don't have to put it in because I check. He goes to the D file because if he goes to a dark square, he loses his queen and he can't block. So he has to go to either a dark square or the D file or both. And both is not a good answer. So we went to D7 as it's the best square, and I would agree with that. Bishop F4, just taking control of some more squares. I did expect him to take with the queen, and after king takes, okay, he might not be in the greatest position, but at the same time, we'll see. Rook E8, that's fair. I mean, it is development, so that he could either take and then play Rook E8, or play Rook E8, let me take, and get some pawns. But for me, I felt that this led to a problem where his king was never going to get safe. So I decide, let's bring in whatever pieces I have. At the end of the day, that's all I can do. Check, king d2 is forced. He can't play bishop b4 because of c3. So he goes to there. I play g3, just defending the bishop and anchoring it in. I'm of course, preparing to take on g7. After bishop to e7, I take the pawn. Maybe I should have... I don't think I can take with the queen, simply because knight h5, and I'm giving him counterplay, and I'm not exactly interested in doing that. So I take with the knight. Rook g8 isn't really anything to be afraid of, because I can play, say, queen f7, or even bishop to h6, and I don't see what he's doing, honestly. So c5, that makes sense. Queen f5 check there, and I believe this is where I played a really bad move that I thought was winning. No, this is a different move. I noticed I could trap his rook. Okay, now I remember where we are in the game. Okay, here I noticed I could trap his rook because his rook doesn't have a lot of squares, so c3, b3, and then f3, and his rook is actually trapped, and he has nothing better to do than take it. But maybe I should have played f3 here and accepted that his rook was going to get out somehow, because f3 would have pretty much solved a tactic that occurred later in the game after I made my blunder. And the reason why I didn't consider it at this point is because, well, never play f3. Generally speaking, f3 is a very weakening move, and it typically undermines your center, your king safety, and loses material. Oftentimes there's some combination of those factors, and here it actually improves all of that. So I wound up just not thinking about it and not realizing that he had this tactic available after he moves his rook to the f file. Rook f8, I mean, right? So I played c3 and figured, okay, I'm fine. And then here, and I didn't appreciate his tactic, not because I didn't see it. I didn't realize, I didn't look at the follow-up is really what happened, right? So I saw the move he played. I just thought it was stupid. Because I didn't see the follow-up to that move. I didn't appreciate that he had that. And if I was black, I almost certainly would have seen the follow-up and calculated it out to the end. It's what happens, right? So I decided that I'm going to play a centralizing move that picks up a tempo, prevents him from discovering on my queen, and I actually wound up not doing that because, well, you'll see why. So, knight e6. Of course, like I said, in theory, this should prevent him from doing a discovered attack on my queen, because now I take his rook with my knight. But the problem is, always sack the exchange. Doesn't matter if it's good, always sack the exchange. And actually here it's good because, well, this is what's known as a clearance sacrifice. I think everybody can accept that it is a clearance sacrifice because he's clearing the way for his knight to come into e4 with check. Now, the best I can do is, and there's no way for me to actually prevent my queen coming off the board, and I'll actually be down a lot of material. And if we go back here, I actually have an advantage if I were to have just played f3. Maybe not. I think I had to play queen to g6 here. Queen g6, and of course the exchange sack doesn't work. But queen f6, queen g6, and I do have some pressure that I have to deal with because it is 2 rooks for the queen. Oh, 2 rooks for the queen and pawn, but 2 rooks for the queen. So I did need to play queen g6, and he doesn't have that tactic available, right? So knight e6, rook takes, and this is the only move I could think of to try and keep my queen on the board, but it doesn't work because he still checks. He puts his knight there, hitting my queen, and I have no better option than to play knight d4. He takes with the rook. I check. Bishop defends. I take the rook. He plays there, and I tried to get some counterplay because I realized I was in a bad way here. I tried to get counterplay by taking the pawn. Maybe I can play queen c1, get a check, and start running that pawn up the board. Maybe run up the g pawn as well, which is not under threat because the bishop is pinned. But the problem is he plays there. He's going to bring his rook in. He's also, believe it or not, trying to promote one of his pawns. And then he'll be just completely winning. I mean, he's winning here. Don't get me wrong. But, this game turned really quickly. And, I tried to follow up my plan. That way I can get my queen, doing something. He plays here, and I realize I'm toast. I resigned here because at the end of the day, I couldn't figure out how to stop this pawn. This is bad because at the end of the day, let's say he just blocks. I think that's good enough for him. I have to take care of the fact that rook f1 wins the queen. I have to deal with the fact that this wins the queen and promotes. And there's just no good moves for me. So maybe I can play here. And this is why I think he would actually just, probably advance the king. Because now I don't have any checks. Not any good ones, at least. And I can't stop the pawn. And this is just game over. I think I would actually have to play here, here, and I can't even advance my pawns because his knight just takes it. Maybe I could try to do something like this, but yeah, exactly. And there's just nothing I can do. This is 2 pieces against the lone king. He has an extra pawn as well. He will promote. As a matter of fact, it's actually white's turn. But let's say I did this. I don't even think he has to take it because he has enough tempo that doesn't exactly matter. See, he can move there. Actually, he does have to be careful. Okay, so he can't play knight f3. I think he has to play here. I'm going to overwrite that. Sure, it allows me there, but it may be better for him to just take it. So I'm going to go back, and in this position, after h6, may as well just take it. I mean, I don't have much. So let's just say that happens. Okay. Because it doesn't matter, I'd have to give up a pawn at some point. He's going to kick me off. He's going to advance. He's going to bring in his king, and eventually I will run out of moves. actually think all he has to do is get his knight to either this square, this square, this square, or this square. Oops, sorry. So what's the fastest way to do that? My thinking is knight here. Let's just advance the pawns because I can't give up. I mean, I can move, but he's going to find a way to pick up tempo to defend the pawn, and I don't want his... I want to give him the chance to try and stalemate me. So the best thing I can do is try and trade off, but even that doesn't work. And I have to go here and promotes, right? And there's probably a way... There's no real way I can stop him from promoting that pawn. And that's the only legal move. Only legal move. Only legal move. And mate. So maybe it was unnecessary to carry it out to mate, but I kind of showed you a variation that I looked at to demonstrate that after d3 I just couldn't stop his pawn. You know, I just wanted to show you that, and I could not for the life of me find a way to stop that pawn. And I'd have to give up my queen, and I'd still let him promote. That's how bad this position is for me. And just to think that he was probably completely bust only 8 moves prior. He was completely bust if I had, you know, actually realized that he had that tactic. Because he's not making progress anywhere on the board until I gave him the opportunity to do so. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Take it easy. Bye-bye.